Hey everybody, happy Thanksgiving and welcome to episode 233 of the Hoots podcast. That is correct, this is your one-stop shop for all things professional wrestling, but also life and just pure entertainment. It is yours truly, the nefarious brother Adam. You can follow me on the Twitters at the Hoots podcast. We're live not only on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, and we're live on Apple Podcasts right now. Really quick, for those who are listening to the podcast for the first time, hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to give this podcast a chance. And I always remind people when people listen to this podcast, this is not your abnormal pro wrestling podcast. You're not going to hear me pop a blood vessel over a booking decision. I think despite our anger and energy at times that comes off with what the hell is wrong with AEW, we like to stray away from booking and this cliche talk. So with that said, like I said, happy Thanksgiving. There's a lot to get into this week, and we're splitting up in three segments. So the getting part here, we'll recap what happened at Survivor Series this past Sunday in Orlando. We'll do what the hell is wrong with AEW in the middle, and this to show our gratitude and thankfulness. We're going to wrap up the show with the Good Brother Q&A session at the end, just to give a shout out to all of you who support this podcast. And as I mentioned last week, this has been the most successful year for the podcast as a whole, number-wise, and just general feedback, more importantly than just numbers. And I could not be more grateful for what this show has grown to this year and what it represents. And I always say, even when Adam was the co-host here every week with me, this is my favorite part of the week, because this is the one time a week where I can actually just open up and be myself and express about a passion that I'm deeply really into. And just grateful for the platform, and and it's really cool with it being a holiday. You know, given everything that's going on with the pandemic and everything, I think it's cool that we can come on here and just really just shoot the shit and have some fun, laugh, not take ourselves too seriously. And you know, there's a lot of worse things we could worry about right now. I mean, we're gonna have Andy Dalton versus Alex Smith today. We're having the overweighted Deshaun Watsons in Detroit against the Lions, and that should be interesting. Oh, we got a good brother in the chat room already. What's up, Sam? Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yes, so for those watching live on Facebook or YouTube, add a comment, ask us a question. We'll interact with you as the show goes on. I like the fact that StreamYard allows you to stream your show on multiple platforms, so you can interact with me live as it's going, and I'll interact with us as the show's going live. And yeah, let's not waste any time. Before we get into the Survivor Series, one quick plugs to mention: make sure to subscribe to the audio podcast. I add a lot of production elements to the podcast that you don't hear on this video version, and you get to gain some knowledge from the one and only Jim Cornette in the audio form. So yeah, make sure to subscribe so you get on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you get podcasts from, or even Spotify too. And also Bookmark Pro Wrestling Transcriptions.com. That's my website where I do all the play-by-play articles. With the addition of MLW this week, Bryan, I think I'm up to like 15 shows a week now. So
wow.
So things are
big things popping, little things stopping. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, thank you, MVP. Yes.
I'm coming. Nobody. Okay, that's enough of that.
Yes. Yeah, so these are busy with the website. And then also, let me bring in the director of all operations, the one and only Brother Carter, Derek Stoughton.
Thank you. Josh, I should say happy American Thanksgiving to everybody, because this is, we may have some listeners not in the country that we are currently residing and recording this podcast in. So right. To all of our American viewers, happy Thanksgiving, and hope everybody is doing well and having great, wonderful food and family as much as one can during this odd global pandemic. Josh, I know we'll talk about this more later, but congratulations on all of your success with the podcast this year. Thank you for letting me be a small part of it. It's always a lot of fun whenever we get to do this. We had a great run earlier this year when we were able to do this, and I think it was like back in April we been able to do full-time shows for a few months, and that was a lot of fun. So thank you for the opportunity, and again, congratulations to All Tech Success. Thanks to everybody who's listening and who's giving this podcast a chance. And Josh, we've said this before. This is a life podcast that just happens to talk about wrestling. That's just what we do, and it's great. Now, I will say it is very unfortunate that we get. How are the Cowboys still America's team? What? They haven't been relevant in 25 years. They haven't been relevant in a quarter of a century, and they are playing in the worst division in the history of football.
Well, it just reminds me, not just that, but every year with football, it's either the Cowboys are having too many primetime games, or I'm supposed to be convinced that the Packers are a Super Bowl contender, even though the last time they were in the Super Bowl, I was a sophomore in high school.
I can't figure
out that.
I know. But again, it's they have to, and we'll get into this more, but they have to, because Aaron Rodgers is still he's firing on all cylinders, So it's hard to rule him out when you've got Aaron Rodgers behind the helm.
Well, okay, that's fine, but okay, why we're putting Aaron Rodgers in a GOAT pedestal when, besides that one Super Bowl, more times than not he chokes like James Harden in the playoffs. So I mean, I think. By the way, Sam is right, man. The NFC least the worst division in all of sports. I don't care if it's baseball, hockey. The NFC East is just pure trash. Philly is trash. The Giants are trash. The Washington football team, they don't even got a damn name yet. Come on, man.
I know. But here's the sad thing, Josh. One of those 4 teams is going to get to host a playoff game. Think about that. You've got these other teams that are not going to make the playoffs. That would wipe the floor with any of those 4 teams in the playoffs. And one of them is going to get to host a playoff game.
By the way, since we're talking about sports really quick, I have to mention this. Whoever decided to make the new jerseys for the Rams and the ones the Vikings wore on Sunday against the Cowboys, please be fired.
Yeah, those were not good. I know those. Those were not good. I know it. But here's the thing, Josh. The best game of the day today got moved to Sunday.
Yeah.
And obviously
I don't remember the last time during the regular season that NBC had an afternoon game.
I know.
Do you remember that? Mm-mm. You know what that would be? Because it'd be different in playoffs. I remember last year it was the Vikings and 49ers in a early afternoon slot on NBC. I think the Bears-Eagles game was late afternoon. Only reason I remember that, not just because of the double doink, but after that game was the the Emmy Awards or something like that. They always do that in January, that time of year. So yeah, it's crazy, man. Sports. That's another thing to be grateful for is the fact that we're still able to watch sports despite all the shit that's been going on. Yep. It's interesting. There's a guy, a beat writer in Chicago that covers the Bears named Dan Wiederer, who appears on ESPN 1000 and all these different stations, right? This year's taught me a lot of things, and it's also exposed me to a lot of people who take their jobs and the platforms they have for granted. So I'm going through it, right? I'm in Chicago. We're dealing with all the stuff that's going on with the Bears. Even with everything going on with the pandemic, this dude has a good paid job. He has weekly hits on radio stations. And I hear him on the radio Monday just moaning about how Matt Nagy's Zoom conferences go and all this other stuff. And look, you know me, Brother Carter, I'm not a fan of Matt Nagy. But understand, there are thousands and thousands of talented people out there that would kill to have the job you have, and you go on radio to pump your chest and have people feel sorry for you because you got to cover Chicago Bears. Dude, even if I worked for the New York Jets and they're 0-9, I would be happy to have that job. So, okay, and this is the thing I hate about media today is that in one platform, you'll pump up your chest and talk all this shit about certain people. And then when you interview the said person in a Zoom call or something like that, none of those questions pop up.
I know.
So Dan Wiederer, I don't know why you never say, Matt, your answers go nowhere. You go on soliloquies, you do this, you do that. I need to get that off my chest.
Part of it though is I think that's what they have to do as journalists. They've got to, make, because let's face it, negativity is what attracts most people. What attracts most people to, they want to see the shitstorm and they want to see he's terrible and fire him, blah, 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 blah. That's what people want to see. So that's part of his shtick, I think. But I certainly understand what you're saying. I agree with you. I would love to be able to cover. You getting to interview an NFL head coach every week? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Here's the thing. For him to take for granted what Matt offers to the media compared to what we just went through with John Fox for 3 years, just think about that a little bit, all right?
And I just, oh man, I feel bad for the Bears, brother Adam, because they started off so strong, and then it just kind of went south. Well,
this is where the balance comes in. Like, I'm not trying to defend Matt, but here's also the thing too. Reason why they're 5-5 is the head coach.
Of course. Listen, at the end of the day, the buck always stops with the head coach. Period. Like that's why you're the head coach. Like you get successes, you get praise for your successes, and you take all the heat for your failures. That's part of being a coach. Like that's part of being a leader of people. That's I had a great mentor that said to me when I was first getting started in the teaching business and when managing people and supervising people, and he said something to me, and it stuck with me the rest of my life, and it will never. He says, when you are in charge, when you are a leader, when things are going well, you praise all of your people and you give them all of the credit in the world for their success, right? You give them all the credit. But when things go bad, you take all the heat. That's part of being a leader. When things go well, praise your people. When things go bad, you take all the heat. That's what the best leaders do. And they figure out how to be better and to make their people better. But so all this to say, Josh, you're right. When things are going well, it's about the head coach. Now, it's you could make the argument it's a little bit different in professional sports because these are supposed to be the elite athletes who are getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to do this. Like with college students, it's different because they're not getting paid, and that's another discussion for another time. But so you can say it's a little bit different, I would say, with professional athletes, but because theoretically they're all grown adults who are their skill set. They were brought to the team because of a skill set. So it's a little bit different, but I understand your point. And it's certainly about coach. Sure.
All right. The last thing I want to mention here in this monologue before we move on. Brother Carter, see if you could check yourself in really quick. You're cutting in and out really quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. You may have to edit some of that stuff out.
No, it's all right. Just come back in really quick. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I was saying here, think about some of the stuff that's going on around sports. You got the NBA free agency period that just went on, and look at what's going on with just the Lakers and stuff. And I can't wait to get Brother Carter's reactions to this because I'll ask the question to you guys because honestly, and Brother Carter's back here. By the way, just to wrap this up. Like, how many more players does LeBron James need on his basketball team? Like, good God, man. I never seen a player that has more hype for the media that needs more players for him to reach certain platforms.
Well, he's going to say, well, look, do you want me to keep delivering you chips? Because, I mean, they won the title this year. So it's but you're right. I understand what you're saying.
I feel like every passing season I get more and I get least interested in the NBA. I don't know what
100%. Well, and every year, Josh, there's always movement. There's always, oh, well, this person's going to go to this team, and this person's going to go to this team, and this person's going to go. Basketball is such an individualized sport. It's you're you just, it's like, so every year it seems like these major superstars want to leave to go to another team for whatever reason to stir it up. But so I agree with you. I'm losing interest in the NBA too.
Yes, the NBA is pure garbage. Let's just keep it 100.
Yes.
The fact that hockey is not mainstream, but we gotta put NBA on the pedestal is just ridiculous.
Agreed.
I love
hockey.
Man. Let's get to some wrestling. Pal.
Yes.
So we could go. This is a lot of different directions. I guess maybe we could go match for match or whatever. But I just want to do like more of an overview thoughts on Survivor Series that happened this past Sunday. And I'll start off with this really quick. For me, being somebody who actually breaks down the pay-per-views blow by blow, I've been able to like really take a step back and look at the bigger picture of what these pay-per-views have been this year, as opposed to, okay, I'm sitting on my couch, I'm going to tweet on Twitter, try to get some retweets and likes, because that's what wrestling fans do on Twitter during pay-per-views. Let's keep it 100. So we have Survivor Series going on, and it's been very consistent. No matter what you think about creative or whatever that goes on with WWE, one thing is for certain is that they've been the most consistent out of any wrestling company when it comes to pay-per-view quality this year. And I thought Survivor Series was a really good show on Sunday night. I really did. SummerSlam was great. The last big pay-per-view that WWE had before the pandemic, which was the Rumble in Houston, was a great event as well. I just think this year in general, WWE's had really, really good pay-per-views. And for the fact that they decided, this is the company that they rag on them for having like super long WrestleManias, but this year they like reduced the time lengths of these pay-per-views. Survivor Series ended like 9:30 my time in Chicago on Sunday? Like,
yeah, it was. Well, was it? Because I started about 5 my time, and then about 3.5 hours maybe.
Yeah, and it's just changed the course over the last couple of years, where you have like a 5-hour SummerSlam or a 5-hour Survivor Series or something like that. The 2-hour pre-show that's changed a little bit as time went on, and I appreciate as a wrestling fan that they were able to have shorter pay-per-views. It's just interesting now. AEW, all their pay-per-views are like 5 or 6 hours each. So
that's. I mean, you can tell that's the kind of model they want to use. Look at AEW Dark every week. They have 15 matches or 16 matches every week on that mud show.
Brother Carter, this is a holiday. I do not want to pop a blood vessel.
I'm sorry. sorry. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show.
Yes. Unreal, man. They have a pay-per-view every week on YouTube. So I enjoyed Survivor Series. What did you think of the show overall?
I honestly, I thought it was terrific, and I really enjoyed. Except, and if we want to break down match for match, I can. I enjoyed all of the matches. I thought that the women's traditional Survivor Series match, it wasn't my favorite match in the world. I thought it was kind of thrown together, and I did laugh at the finish, though. I did laugh at the finish and thought that was very creative.
Right.
So that part about it was great. And then the men's match was fine. It just, there wasn't a whole lot of hype to those matches, I think, which was kind of and we talked about that on the show last week. But overall, I thought that the matches themselves were great. I think that the main event, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, is a match of the year candidate, no question. I thought that they tore the house down on that, and I'm just really happy with overall the matches and the production value of it. And I agree with you, Josh. I think that WWE in 2020 has had to do. They continue to think outside of the box and have really delivered some content that we're never going to forget this year. I mean, you think about, go back to WrestleMania and the Boneyard match and the match with Cena and Bray Wyatt, like the Firefly Funhouse match. Those were hilarious. The Money in the Bank match where they fought through Titan Towers, like that's cool. They got to think outside the box, which I thought was terrific. Getting into SummerSlam, I thought SummerSlam was a great show as well. I mean, that was terrific. Hell in the Cell. I mean, golly, was that where we had the triple threat match with Sami Zayn and Jeff Hardy?
That was Clash of Champions.
Sorry, Clash of Champions. But I mean, Hell in a Cell was great. Clash of Champions, that was an incredible pay-per-view as well. So
right.
WWE has just delivered consistently. And of course, everyone's going to bash it because that's the cool thing to do, is to bash the big guy, bash the guy on top. But in 5 and 10 years from now, which company is still going to be thriving? And I think that they've done a remarkable job this year. And so I really enjoyed Survivor Series. And of course, we'll get into the Undertaker stuff here in a little bit, which I thought we'll get into that here in a second. But overall, I enjoyed Survivor Series very much.
A couple of quick takeaways from the show. By the way, Charlie Caruso, blessed to see her on our screen as always.
She actually has been doing a lot better on First Take recently too. She gets to host First Take once a week and has been doing a lot better with that. So that's been great. Good, happy for her for that.
Well, I'll take Charlie Caruso any day over passive aggressive Molly Karam. So,
oh really? Interesting. Yes. I don't mind Molly Karam Rose. I think she plays off Stephen A. and Max quite well.
There's a lot of internal stuff in my head I had to process while watching that particular show, because Max Kellerman is so smug at times. I'm like, ooh.
I love it. I love it. My man. I love it.
But let's go back to Survivor Series real quick. All due respect to Booker T, watching him on the kickoff show is like a 1 hour Booker T let me put myself over challenge. It's fucking brutal at times, man. Every match we're previewing, Booker T had to mention something about him being a former this or a former that or a former this. Dude, we know your resume. You say it every single kickoff show you're on. It's just brutal, man. No beef with Peter Rosenberg. It's fine. If they want to have a fan perspective, I'll take Rosenberg over Sam Roberts any day of the week.
Twice on Sundays.
Yeah, Sam Roberts sucks. He's horrible.
He wants to be a heel, but he comes off as just annoying.
Sounds familiar to Bryan Alvarez, right? I got some comments for him later on the podcast, by the way. So
remember, Josh, no popping blood vessels today. We're being thankful today.
Yeah.
but I understand with those two jackasses, it's really hard. But go ahead.
Well, speaking of Bryan Alvarez, one of his stupid comments this week, because he sees to top himself every single week with dumb comments. I knew, it was a good pay-per-view when the main complaint coming out of Bryan Alvarez is a kickoff show battle royal. How many times have I come on here and talk about people grasping at straws to cling onto something that really is not an issue, but we just need something to bitch about?
Of course.
That's the problem with wrestling Twitter. That's always been the wrestling media as well. Here's the difference. I watch too much wrestling. I spend more time watching non-WWE shows than WWE shows. And from everything I watch throughout the week, it just amazes me at just the double standards that we apply to all these shows. I watch and I give my perspective. That's it. and
you cover Impact, you cover AEW, MLW, New Japan. I'm sure there's some Ring of Honor in there when you get a chance. So I know you cover the whole gamut, my friend.
Yeah, the sucky part about this is that I want to enjoy all wrestling, but as we have our segment later on, it's just I generally don't enjoy AEW. That's the difference. I don't go into the show and be like, well, okay, let me find this to pick out, let me find that to pick out, boom, 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 boom. I'm watching it, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Most of the time.
The thing is, Josh, we want to enjoy it. It's not like we go into it trying to be like, oh, okay, I can't wait to figure out how this is going to suck this week, right? We want AEW to be successful, but we'll get into it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he's go on this freaking soliloquy about Dominic losing the battle royal to the Miz, and this is sample 101 on why Raw ratings are going down. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're telling me a pre-show battle royal is a reason why ratings are going down? Like, I know he has to cling on to the narrative of his website, and that is what it is. But anybody with common knowledge or have any experience in the actual media school or understand the actual media business would tell you that Nielsen is not the proper metrics to base your opinions on, and that's all they can rely on. That's the only thing they cling on to. They cling on to like drug addicts, which is unfortunate. But let's talk about the good stuff on the show. I really enjoyed the men's Survivor Series match, and I'll pinpoint the part where I knew this was going to be a sweep. I'll tell you this right now, okay?
Okay.
When Seth Rollins got tagged in and he did the whole sacrificing, I love the Messiah. I'll die on the hill on that. He's freaking hilarious. I love him as a heel, right? He goes down there and he's like, for the greater good. He's looking at the guys and he's like, he yells at Sheamus, do your part. when Team SmackDown did that like little get together, like that little regroup session, I knew at that point that was going to be a sweep. Because you look at that paper, it looked more likely that Raw was going to win decisively. Right. But just the dynamics of how Team SmackDown was put together, it was just plain and obvious. And I'll say this. When you have Raw and SmackDown events like Survivor Series, I continue to say this. I think it's a bad decision to have the draft before Survivor Series. I think you would get more money, more bang for your buck, if you will, if you did the draft after WrestleMania and you have both of your brands distinguished with their rosters by Survivor Series. And then, but that's not to take away from the match. I enjoyed it. I thought King Corbin has some good spots as always. Kevin Owens is a man. Braun Strowman's been a freaking egomaniac over the last couple weeks. He wants to fight everybody. He headbutts. No, he attacks Adam Pearce. Like, Braun Strowman's losing it, man. I don't know what's wrong with him. Right. I don't. He's from Wisconsin. He has nothing to complain about, right?
Country strong, man. Country strong.
So, like, despite what I just mentioned with the whole thing with the draft, but I like the match. You know, Keith Lee being the one to finish off the match with that spear bomb on Jey Uso was pretty smooth. I like that. So. Yeah, okay, we get it. This is big storyline says they're arguing each other the entire time. Why were none of them eliminated? If you watch the story, they were going to win the match the entire time. That's the thing. And then AJ Styles reminds me a lot of my Uncle Jeremy that I watched these shows with, my boss at the tattoo shop. And he's the way he talks, the way he, the mannerisms. I don't know about the hair. They're kind of close when it comes to hair, but Jeremy's from North Carolina, so it makes a lot of sense. So it's just like every time I hear AJ Styles cut a promo or something, I just start laughing because it sounds exactly like what Jeremy would say. It's hilarious. So, but yeah, I like the men's match, and I knew they were going that route when Seth Rollins got eliminated. What was your thoughts on it?
Well, a couple things. One, Josh, is I 110% agree with you about the draft. I think that needs to happen right after WrestleMania because WrestleMania is kind of the Super Bowl, essentially. It's the ending of WrestleMania's season.
Right.
You know, so then you can have your Raw after Mania, which is always one of the biggest shows of the year, and you kind of get things kicking off going again. And then you can have the draft the week later, which I think is because it just resets everything. It essentially starts a new season of WWE programming. And so I loved when they did that. Like you said, it establishes the brand. You get to know who is on what brand over the course of 6 months, 7 months. And then you can have Survivor Series, and it just means more. I also think, Josh, that the men's and women's traditional Survivor Series matches should have a reward because right now it's clearly that you've permitted Raw. It's clearly Raw versus SmackDown is what Survivor Series has become. Great, no problem. I hope eventually they put NXT in there. For occasionally, not all the time, but once in a while you can throw an NXT match in there, because I thought the 2019 when they added NXT gave some amazing matches, especially that was a fun weekend. That women's match was unbelievable. And I still think to this day that the best women's division in pro wrestling is in NXT. So the question, but anyways, so I think that there should be some kind of reward, perhaps a future, whoever gets the win, gets the opportunity to decide who gets a future title match or something. I don't know what you can do with it, but I think there needs to be awards. So that's one thing. The other thing that I took away from this is, especially on the men's side of it, was think how many potential world champions were in that match. And that just gives you the depth of WWE's roster. I mean, look on Raw. You could legitimately say almost all of them, if not all of them, could be legitimate world champions and believable. AJ Styles, 100%. Braun Strowman, 100%. Keith Lee, I'm all in on Keith Lee. I think he's absolutely fantastic. So he was great. Sheamus, and then who's the fifth guy I'm forgetting?
Riddle.
Yeah, there you go. I think Riddle's going to be a future world champion too. SmackDown, you've got King Corbin. King Corbin's great. I hope he gets to be a world champion one day. Jey Uso, I mean, where has this Jey Uso been over the last, amount of time? Because he's been terrific. Seth Rollins, of course. Otis, I
thought he was fine in that match.
He was fine in the match, no question. Yeah. I don't know if he's ready to be a world champion yet.
I don't think so either.
No, but and then I'm escaping
Kevin Owens.
Yeah, world champion. There you go. So you could legitimately say 7 out of 10 people in that match, you could put the world title on them tomorrow, and I'm okay with it. I believe it. So I think that just shows the depth. And so this is for all the people that are complaining like, oh my God, WWE, they're wasting all this talent. No, it's because the roster is so stacked that there just isn't enough room for everybody on the show. And good, bad, or indifferent, that's just how it is. And that's why when you've made it that's why everybody should be aspiring to get to WWE, because this proves that if you make it to WWE, you are legitimate one of the best in the world, to borrow a catchphrase from one of your heroes and also another person who claims to be the best in the world, but is clearly not. And we'll get to that in a little while. But so I just think that this pay-per-view and specifically these matches really highlighted the depth of talent on WWE's roster.
To add on to your point there, while this particular match did not have consequences or rewards, but look what happened the night after on Raw. Literally right after the match, to show it off air, Adam Pearce said a victory like that warrants a reward. So we had 3 barn burners on Monday Night Raw to set up this triple threat match, and whoever wins that match will be the next guy to fight fight Drew McIntyre. So even though it wasn't if this person wins, it's gonna be that person, like the Soul Survivor, is gonna be the number 30th entered in the Rumble. Even though that wasn't part of the stipulation, there was some benefits for the team that won the match. So as far as your thoughts on the women's match, I thought it was there were some sloppy spots at parts at times, but I thought the match was a little longer than it needs to be, more importantly than what the execution of the moves were. I'm not a Nia Jax fan. I'll just be honest with you. I think she's useless. I think she brings Shayna Baszler down. You can look at her appeal for being tall and being a powerful wrestler and stuff like that, but she's just generic to me. Her promos, I don't buy into anything she says. I think she comes off as disingenuous a lot of times on screen. This is not a personal slight towards her as a person. This is just observations of what I see on television, and Nia Jax does absolutely nothing for me. And big props to Lana. She had a wonderful Chronicle special. That's a tremendous person, and having the bravery and courage to share her issues with depression like that, and there's not a lot of empathy these days because people are just so fixated on what benefits them or their confirmation bias on certain things. So that's the unfortunate part of society these days. But I agree with you. The whole part with her ending up being the winner, we always ask for creativity, right? I've never seen a Survivor Series match end with a double count out where the last person standing is the sole survivor. So I gotta give credit where credit's due. So like I started laughing. I gotta say this, speaking of laughing, Corey Graves was on fire during Survivor Series.
When he said the perfect 10 thing with Peyton Royce, I just died laughing. That was outstandingly brilliant.
Yes.
That was great. That was great. So Josh, let me give my thoughts real quick if I can on the women's match.
Go ahead.
Like I said, and then I'll, I agree with you that I think it was a little bit long. I 100% agree with you that Nia brings Shayna Baszler down. Shayna Baszler is my fifth favorite. I think she's number 5 in the world in women's wrestling. I have her at 5. I have Rhea Ripley at 4. I have Asuka at 3, Alexa Bliss at 2, and then the Queen. Woo! Even though she's not on TV, she is still the greatest women's wrestler in the world right now. But so I agree with you 100%, and I do agree that it was a little bit long. I wish we would have gotten to see a little bit more from each of the female talent, kind of get to do a little bit more in the ring. I was happy that Bianca Belair got a bit of an opportunity to shine near the end because I think that she is a future on SmackDown. I hope eventually once she'll get her opportunity once Sasha Banks and Carmella's program is over. So, but I agree with you, Josh. I think it was just a little bit too long. And I want Nia Jax to do well. I really do. But I agree with you. I think she's kind of generic, and I think she's dangerous. That's the problem. Like she doesn't know how to work. She doesn't know how to take care of her opponents, and that's not good. So we need to get this thing over with. Put the tag titles on Asuka and Lana if you want to do that. Fine.
Right.
And then I actually wouldn't mind seeing a mini Shayna Baszler Nia Jax feud getting into 2021 until it's time for Asuka and Shayna Baszler to be the Raw Women's Championship match at Mania.
Right. Do you remember when we were supposed to have Nia and Shayna in Raw Underground?
Oh God,
that would have been awesome. By the way, I gotta give props. I always like to say that I got the same for JR. No matter how long your match is or whatever segment you're in, you gotta maximize your TV time, right? I want to give props to Liv Morgan because I thought she was the best one out of everybody in the Survivor Series match as far as what I thought from moves and all the stuff that was going on. So it was nice to see her, and she has great overtures. That's for sure.
I was just about to say, yeah, she wins an overture award for sure.
Absolutely. All right, so other stuff that stood out to me, like I love the Hurt Business. I could be a broken record mentioning this. The Hurt Business, the best faction in all wrestling right now. It's not close. Bobby Lashley, Sami Zayn was pretty interesting. It went out how I figured it was going to be, where Sami Zayn would try to find unique ways to get out of like submission holds or try to way to get some disqualified. Or I thought it was fine. It's hard at times to lay out a match where you have two heels with each other, so that's where you rely on your commentary to keep like integrity of certain characters. That's why I love so much of what Corey Graves did, because man, that dude was on the defense on Sami Zayn for everything he did. And maybe just me being the broadcaster and the guy who wants to do play-by-play, but I think outside being a referee, the most essential part to a wrestling match outside the wrestlers are the people that are calling the match. Because if you're watching the show and the narrators are not eliciting any energy inside of you while you're watching the show, it's hard to engage inside of wrestling show. So I think commentary is more essential right now, especially with the fact there's no fans in the building. So that's why I put so much of an emphasis on it. But other stuff, New Day and Street Profits was a tremendous match. just really good stuff for them. And then New Day had a good match. The Hurt Business again on Raw Monday for the Raw Tag Team title. So, yeah, we talked about it last week. There's not enough of established tag teams right now on both divisions. But that's another topic we can get to down the road or stuff like that. But what do you think about the New Day and Street Profits match?
Loved it. I mean, that was one of my favorite matches of the night. I think that both the New Day and the Street Profits are firing on all cylinders. I thought the build to it was great, with Big E teasing the Street Profits over on SmackDown. I thought that was terrific. And the New Day, the last 3 matches they've been in have been of the highest quality. They had a great match with the Hurt Business 2 weeks ago on Raw. Then getting into Survivor Series, they had a great match with the Street Profits, and then another great match with the Hurt Business this past week on Raw as well. So I thought that it was terrific. I think it might be time, Josh, and we can get into this at some point. It might be time to unify the tag titles and just have the tag team champions because, like you said, there's just a lack of quality teams in WWE right now, and WWE is it seems like there's a lot of attention on single stars, and so it's and I know they're trying to build it up, but like I said, I agree with you. The Hurt Business, best faction in the business right now. They're going to be a viable challenge. They'll be viable challengers for the New Day on Raw. But then you get over to SmackDown. Who are the Street Profits going to feud against? Are they going to put together kind of a makeshift tag team to challenge them, like maybe like a Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler? Maybe, so I think it might be time to unify the tag titles and just have them. And you can especially do that now since the company is so isolated. They're forced to be in one location. There isn't as much travel that's necessary for them if the tag team titles want to go between both shows and maybe even NXT, because with the women's titles, they technically can be defended on NXT. So it might be time for that. But all that to say, I love the tag team match. I love what New Day and Street Profits are doing. It was great.
Well, here's the thing. Like, you have, they came out with the announcement that the Thunderdome is moving to an actual dome.
Yes.
I'm just visually trying to figure out how that's gonna look. Like, how many more screens can you fit in that sucker? That's
gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna be awesome. Mm-hmm. What it does is it allows for more fans. It just allows for more fan experience, which I think is, and again, WWE's production value is untouchable. So. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I was talking about this with Jeremy the other day. Like, for damn well, Florida is going to be the first place to have wrestling fans once they get the clearance to do so,
Yep. They already have it on Wednesday nights in Daly's place.
That's a good point. And you still have your wrestlers at ringside not wearing masks, which nobody seems to bring up ever. But anyways, Jesus Christ.
The Mud Show continues. Okay, we're trying so hard to wait, Josh. We're trying so hard to wait.
There was an actual Mud Show. That's why we're mentioning this a lot right now. But I want to give props where props are due. I could do a million Sasha Asuka matches. Yep. I'm not one of the wrestling fans that complains about rematches, and I'm in a different position because I'm covering these shows now. A lot of it's now work to me as opposed to just me sitting back and popping a cold one and watching the show for what it's. I don't drink anyway, but I'm just using the analogy. You get where I'm coming from. But Sasha and Asuka, just another good match. They've had a gazillion good matches this year, so I wasn't really surprised by what they did. I wish there was like a website or like a video where people could like break down the different names of certain roll-ups. Like, I really try to put certain details in certain moves and matches where it differentiates from one another. There's so many different names for like Canadian Destroyers and Death Valley Drivers and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of mental gymnastics I have to do in my head when I make it a transcript, right? And when I see different roll-ups where it's like, okay, we're going to do a jackknife, but the girl's going to flip you over. I want to know like what the names are there. Those are like, it's one thing for the announcer to say, oh my gosh, she reversed the roll-up. Like, what am I supposed to type there? Like, okay, here's roll-up, and she rolled her over.
Right.
Like it doesn't come off good writing wise, but like that has something to do with what they did. I just wish for more clarity for the wrestling fans, where the announcers could actually break down the names of some of these roll-ups, so we're not confused. And it takes away the feeling that you would have that it's a flat finish, because for whatever reason in 2020 people feel like roll-up finishes are cheap or lazy way to end matches, even though this is a wrestling match and you're winning with a wrestling move. Oh
my God, you're winning a wrestling match with a wrestling move. Oh my God, we can't have that.
It's impossible. Who would think of something so stupid? All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the main action of this event.
Can I say one thing about the women's match real quick, Josh?
Go ahead.
All right, real quick. I would make an argument that 2020 has been Sasha Banks' best year. I think she is trending in the right direction. And I know she had all those great matches with Charlotte Flair and that, when they played hot potato with the title back in 2016. But I think Sasha Banks' character has just over this last year has skyrocketed, and she has been doing some terrific work, and I'm thrilled that she's getting the opportunity that she is. We used to complain about the boss on this show, and much to Matt McCool's chagrin. By the way, definitely check out Matt and Referee Tony on the TV podcast. They're doing great work over there. Be sure to check them out. I had a great conversation with Referee Tony via Twitter. We debated Charlotte versus Trish. So shout out to Referee Tony. He's a great guy. Looking forward to working with him soon. But so I would say that I think that Sasha is definitely moving in the right direction, and Asuka continues to show us why she's one of the best in the world. So, and I agree with you, Josh. Like, I will, people complain about rematches. So what they're saying is they don't want to see two really good wrestlers put on a show.
Yeah. For example, there was that period where Seth Rollins fought like Dolph Ziggler like 10 or 12 different times. Anytime I saw that on the lineup or a preview, I'm like, okay, this could be easy thing to type out, because it's just like our repetition, like you just know where things are going, so it's really not that bad of a deal, actually.
Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. Remember those series of matches? Those were fantastic. Like, oh my God, we want to see two. We don't want to see two good wrestlers put on a great wrestling match.
Speaking of matches that I would like to see a series of, that would be Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. Good awesome. God, man, that match was just. I put it on Twitter. Barnburner's not enough to describe my thoughts on that particular match and how awesome it was. Just the storytelling, the match layout itself, more importantly, was fantastic. I thought Rudy Charles, Referee Tony would appreciate this. I thought Rudy Charles was the right guy for that particular match. And there was a rough bump at the end, and Roman Reigns made McIntyre pass out to the guillotine, and the Tribal Chief stands tall as the best of the best. But I think that may be the best pay-per-view match I've transcribed this year, and I can't even imagine what the reaction from a live crowd would have been with that particular match, and that kind of bugs me out in a way, but also at the same time, it's just, if you want a match from this era of pandemic wrestling that you want to go back and watch multiple times, this is the one for me. This match was this is fucking awesome, man. So I really liked it. What did you think about this match?
Drew McIntyre is continuing to prove why he's the MVP of 2020, and he should be Wrestler of the Year. And I've been saying that for the last couple of months, and I really believe Drew McIntyre should be Wrestler of the Year for 2020. What he has done, when everything happened, what he has carried the company on his back for the majority of 2020, and I think that he is going to have for how great his 2020 was, he's going to have an even better 2021. And I think 2021 is really going to be the year where Drew McIntyre solidifies himself as a first ballot Hall of Famer. No question. I think he's been absolutely terrific. That being said, what can you say about Roman Reigns? I mean, this anybody who has issues with what Roman Reigns is doing and how he's, oh my God, they're shoving him down our throat again. Roman Reigns is must-see television every week. And then when he gets in the ring, he delivers 11 times out of 10. He knows how to work. He knows how to sell his move set. He's fluid in the ring. He's phenomenal. This was a classic in every way, shape, or form, and is definitely one of my favorite matches of 2020, along with, of course, Walter and Ilya Dragunov, the NXT match. That you want to talk about two matches that are going to sum up what wrestling could be in 2020. I would say it's those two matches. It was just terrific.
To mention something that Bryan Alvarez said earlier this week, since we're talking about Roman Reigns, I guess there's a clip that's circulating around Twitter. You guys could go find it if you want to listen to the nonsense. But the gist of it is that Bryan Alvarez was kind of undermining Roman Reigns' leukemia and the severity of it on one of his shows with Mike Sempervini. As a guy who's a wrestling fan, wrestling content creator, hearing that clip made me embarrassed to be a wrestling fan and part of this realm.
100%.
I don't care what you think of a character. I don't care what you think of a person either. You cannot question somebody's severity or levels of cancer. That's not something to make a comparison to. It's not something to make an indirect joke about. I'm almost losing words just to come up and conjure at this point, because, like, are you that vile of person to literally undermine the severity of Roman Reigns' leukemia? And why would that even be a talking point on your show? Why would that be ever something that comes out of your mouth on a podcast? I would never undermine somebody's issues, whether it's cancer or something else, or if somebody came out gay, or they voted for somebody that I didn't vote for. I don't care for that stuff. I really don't. Like, it has no bearing on me, and I'm not going to judge somebody because they do something that I don't. You know, I'm just not wired that way. Whether it was an indirect joke or whatever intentions he thought he was going for with that segment, it's just pure BS. And it's just embarrassing. And I hope one day Roman Reigns confronts this schmuck in person, because you're really going to say that, oh, Roman Reigns' leukemia was this, but this other person had worse leukemia. Just utterly pathetic, to be honest with you. And the shame of it is that guys like him and these other people that are so snarky and just arrogant in how they present themselves and how they hold themselves on air or their articles or even on Twitter, the snarkiness, those are the people that get clicks, and I just don't understand why. I don't know why those are the wrestling fans put them on a pedestal. I just don't understand that. There's people that are entertained. There's people who can have hot takes. There's people who could bust their ass and put out entertaining shows that get not even a third of the attention and viewership that these assholes get. And it's just embarrassing as a wrestling fan. The guy that's supposed to be the top wrestling expert goes on a podcast and tries to diminish somebody's leukemia. I don't get it.
There are some lines that you just don't cross. And when it comes to a person's health and their family, no way. Like, leave that stuff out of it. It's when it comes to those health issues like that, you don't joke about that shit, man. Like, you don't, and who are we to judge what somebody's health is like? Who are we to judge somebody that is making a decision that they feel is best for their health and their family? Like, who are we to judge that? That's between them and God. That's that. The severity of that. That's absolutely inexcusable. I agree with you, Josh, that Alvarez continues on a weekly basis to discredit himself as a journalist, us well, and I don't consider myself to be a part of the wrestling media. I just do this for fun, and kind of my escape. But you, Josh, who is a member of the wrestling media, and other people who are credible and are doing really great things. It's deplorable. It's despicable. And there are just some topics you never touch, and health and family are two things that are, in my opinion, 100% off limits.
And I remember video shows, they're like, oh, Roman Reigns uses leukemia to have people have sympathy for him for WrestleMania 35. Like, you guys are just fucking assholes. Like, it's so ridiculous.
And when all that happened, I mean, of course, people, when he came back after 3 or 4 months, people immediately said, really? Health experts came out and said, of course, that can happen. If a spike in leukemia comes up, and it can go into remission within months. Like, health experts who have medical degrees and do this for a living said, yeah, that happens. Of course. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's kind of similar to people who are in denial about voting frauds or non-frauds.
We're not going to get into that, Josh, again, where this is not going to get into that today.
Let's wrap this up. Review for Survivor Series real quick with this. Man, it's very few times where I get like choke up during a wrestling show and stuff like that, especially when they're honoring your all-time favorite wrestler, the way they honored The Undertaker on Sunday. And I think down the road I may carve out some time to do like a specialty podcast and fully break down what The Undertaker means to me as a wrestling fan, just his career as a whole. Maybe I'll do that the day he goes to the Hall of Fame or something like that. I'll carve out a podcast for that. But, I think you're a good testament to this because we were at WrestleMania 34 together. And you saw my excitement when Undertaker came out and fought John Cena and what that meant to me, because I didn't know whether that was going to be his last match or not. And I was there with Matt for the Roman Reigns match in Orlando, where Undertaker put his hat down and everything. That show was the first time I ever cried at a wrestling show. Just that whole thing with the hat, and I really thought that was it. And whatever happened after that was what it was. I loved the Boneyard match. I thought that was a perfect symbolism for him to go off in the sunset like that. It looks like this is the real deal. It looks like this is really for The Undertaker. And it was inevitable, and I have to understand that too. But here's the thing. This is the one guy that I grew up. He was the always constant in WWE in my 25 years or so of watching this stuff, and having everybody come out from DX to the BSK crew, Ric Flair, all the guys that came out to honor The Undertaker was really nice to see. Mick Foley out there as well. I'm sure people have their complaints about the fact that you could have done this with a crowd. I get that. For me, it didn't matter what they put out there. Like, it was going to be a really special moment for me because that's, besides CM Punk, that's my guy. That's the guy that got me into this stuff and why I love this business in the first place. I put out a post on Twitter Sunday morning about a fourth grade arts project that I did. You guys can go scroll up the tweet, find it there. I made this like art project at the WrestleMania 20 of Undertaker, and his entrance for WrestleMania 20 is my favorite of all time. Just the look he had for that, and he had the Druids out and Paul Bearer at Madison Square Garden. That was my all-time favorite Undertaker entrance, right? So, having the Paul Bearer hologram, it was really wrenching at the souls, man. And get to see Vince out there, and we get it. He's aged a lot and stuff like that. But when it came to the Undertaker stuff, and you would understand where I come from with this Bret Hart, that was not the moment for me to be like, okay, let me nitpick this, let me nitpick that. It's just a moment for the wrestling fans to embrace the greatest character in the history of professional wrestling. And I want to thank you, Mark Calloway, for what you've done for the wrestling business. What you've done for me as a fan. I look up to you in a lot of different ways, and I could kind of consider myself a lone wolf and an Undertaker in my own way, and being like a leader in a lot of ways as well. And I appreciate what you've done for the wrestling business. And I haven't got a chance to watch the Stone Cold Round 2 with Undertaker. I'm looking forward to watching it later on this weekend. But, I wish I could say all this stuff to Undertaker one day once all this pandemic crap is over with and I get a chance to meet him one day. But, yeah, man, everything I saw from that Undertaker stuff was really heart-wrenching and really numbing to sit through. So, of course, would it be better to have a longer promo or having fans in the building? Sure, but that's not what was important that night. And I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. But go ahead, Bryan. What did you think?
There's a lot of people that are complaining about why do this now. I mean, there's no fans, blah, 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 blah. I have no problems with it all because it is legitimately 30 years to the day. You've got to capitalize on that. You've got to make sure that you do it on that day. So I 100% was okay with the decision to do it on that day. And I thought that the video package was incredible. I thought that was all great. When for me, the moment was the Paul Bearer hologram. When that hit, I was just like, that's it. That was it for me. Like, wow, it was that was an emotional moment. Growing up watching The Undertaker, I was 8 years old when The Undertaker debuted, and now here we are 30 years later to the day. So I have no problems with what they did with that. I thought that was all terrific. My only, I guess, and if we're going to be, what I would have liked to seen was, I'm going to say 1.5. Things that I wish I could have seen different, and I'll talk about the half in a second. The one was, I wish that the legends would have talked more, or we would have seen a little bit more of them, because they came out and that was cool. But there are a lot of people who are watching the product now who don't really know who some of those people are. Like some people who don't know who the Godwins are, who don't know who Savio Vega is, who the Godfather is. They know who JBL is because of the pre-shows that he does and that sort of thing. And most of the other people in the ring they've seen over the last few years. So I think having them speak a little more would have been cool. So I would have liked, or at least, applauded on screen when he did his thing like that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit. And then I wish Undertaker would have spoke a little bit more, but I understand why he did it because, he wanted to do a quick thing. Rest in peace. He'll talk more, like you said, at his Hall of Fame ceremony when there's more people there. And I think he'll be a little bit more out of character, which is the other thing I would have liked to see, because we've been seeing a lot of that recently where he's been doing a lot of the out of character stuff, which I think has been awesome. It's been great. So that's why I'm going to call it a half. I wish I would have liked to have seen that, but I understand why they didn't do it. But it was the right move to do it at this time. Everything I enjoyed the presentation top to bottom. Like I said, the Paul Bearer hologram was brilliant. And that for me was the moment that really got me. And I loved every bit of it. Thank you to The Undertaker for all the years. Without a doubt, the best character in the history of professional wrestling because of what Mark Calloway did. Because he could have taken, he could have given him any gimmick and he would have made it work. But he took this character who when this first got started, I'm sure they didn't imagine what it would become 30 years later. There's no way they could have envisioned what it would have become. And because of Mark Calloway's brilliance, dedication to his craft, he made it the standard of characters in the professional wrestling business. So Mark Calloway is one of the greatest to ever lace up a pair of boots. And I thought this was a very fitting way to send him off. No question.
All right. That was our review for Survivor Series. Before we get to the Good Brothers Q&A, I think it's time to cook up. It is a holiday. We're cooking up things up in here. It's time to cook up and serve up a lovely dish of what the hell is wrong with AEW. And we're going to start off in a 3, 2, 1.
It's time for What
the hell is wrong with AEW? If there's ever been a week for this thing to be sponsored by the Wrestling Observer newsletter, this is the week. Good God. Josh, go ahead.
All right. I'm going to just bear with me for a couple minutes, Brett Carter, because I have a lot of stuff I need to get off my chest really quick.
Go ahead.
First off, no wrestling show that's based on developmental talent should be 2.5 hours long. That's number one. Number two, okay, I love Eddie Kingston, but I don't know how many times we're going to repeat this thing where he's on commentary 4 weeks in a row and maybe he wrestles or maybe he doesn't. Is he a manager? Is he a color commentator? Or is he a wrestler? I need to know what's happening with Eddie Kingston. And I want to start off with this, and I brought this up to you last night. You want to know what my fundamental issues are with AEW? Their whole story arcs are based in nepotism, something revolving the Elite, or the WWE. I have no baby faces that I have any sympathy for. I have no heels that I want to see get their ass kicked. It's actually got to the point where I want to see certain heels off my television screen. And it goes back to what I keep saying, man. The worst announced team in all professional wrestling. I'm saying that with Josh Matthews still on the horizon. Think about that, okay? The worst announced team in all wrestling. We have a little debate that we're going to do here in a couple minutes in this particular segment, but I'll say this. Like, I'll tell you what, like, I watched the show and I want it to be good, and then you see a match like Top Flight and Hybrid 2 that belong on Dark, and it goes long and on and on and on. And then, like, I don't understand why every match on TV has to be 15 or 20 plus minutes. I just don't understand it. Not every match needs a picture-in-picture break. It doesn't. I'll tell you the stuff that I like, and then I'll pass off to you, Brother Carter. But really quick, again, Inner Circle is trash. Okay, here's the stuff I did like, right? I liked Hangman Page's match with John Silver. I thought that was a good match. I liked the interaction with Taz and Cody Rhodes. I thought that was fine. I even liked some parts of the main event. I thought that was a solid match. And then, of course, seeing Anna Jay on my screen, but the match wasn't what was good. But yeah, like, it's like, I don't want to be a broken record here. You guys know where I stand with this. This company has no identity, and it falls back on the Wrestling Observer mark. That's the booker, the owner, the writer of this freaking mud show. And it's just not fun to watch. It's not fun to transcribe. It's not. I got to hear JR and Shivani try to one-up each other with lines, and Excalibur just saying basically nothing the entire show. It's not good. Like, I don't see what you guys see when it comes to AEW. And I'm not just going to put horse blinders on just because, oh, it's the new show. You got to give them a break. No, I'm not going to give you a break. You call yourself All Elite Wrestling. You say you're the company that's going to fix all the issues that are going on with other wrestling promotions when you don't even have an identity. So you have no leg to stand on when it comes to criticizing other wrestling promotions. I'm sick of the elitist attitude that they have in that company. I'm sick of the passive-aggressive nature that a lot of their performers carry themselves with. I'm sick of the freaking sour grape promos. CM Punk was great with the pipe bomb promo and exposing the backstage thing and politics. Cool. Like, that was not the reason why I was a CM Punk fan. The reason I was a CM Punk fan is because he's from Chicago and I relate to a lot of things that he is as a person. not just, oh, Vince McMahon held me back and dirt sheet this, dirt sheet that. That's not why I'm not a fan. That's not why I'm a fan of CM Punk, right? Hearing these sound great promos from Moxley and Kingston and MIRO and all this other stuff, it's like, okay, you want a tissue? Do you need me to give you a hug? Like, there's just a lot of stuff with AEW that just turns me off as a wrestling fan, and it's just not for me. I can't say that clear enough. Their style of wrestling makes no sense. Their match layouts are not good. They had the worst referee crew in the entire business, and it's just absolute dog shit. So that's my thoughts on the Mud Show. Bryan Carter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Josh. By the way, I'd like to say apparently your dog agrees with you. Your dog even recognizes what a Mud Show AEW is.
Yeah,
it's awful. Okay, so Josh, what the hell is wrong with AEW? You know, it's really, you mentioned the commentary team. You put the worst commentary team, which I agree with you. It's horrible in the business right now. That includes JR, Tony Schiavone, right? You just put Josh Matthews. Think about this. You just put Josh Matthews above JR, and you did it 100% correct. Like, is that just not does that just not say everything it needs to say about what's happening with AEW and with JR? And I've said it before on the show, Josh, AEW is where careers go to die. It is. AEW is where careers go to die. And that's exactly what has happened thus far with the commentary team. And I agree with you 100%. Same with the refereeing crew. They're the worst. They're out of position all the time. Their cadence is inconsistent. It's, Jimmy Corderas has talked about this multiple times. It's just the inconsistency of what we're getting every week from the officiating crew is awful. Like, a lot of times, and this is not an exaggeration, when after a pin is made, you could get to a 5 count because it takes the referees 2 or 3 seconds to get in a position to make the count. And Josh, you're nodding your head like, am I wrong? Like, it's exactly what happens. Like, it's the refereeing crew is horrendous. They had the opportunity to do something with Mike Chioda. They brought him in, and I was like, okay, maybe he'll train up the officiating crew. Cool. That could be great. Wasted him. We saw him 1 week, and now he's gone. It's been absolutely horrible. So that's awful. Okay, let's get into AEW this week. So apparently in our promos now, we're going to call out dads. And Kenny Omega is like, I think my dad could beat up your dad. Like, is this what we're getting into with promos now? It's oh my God. I will say, though, and I said this to you, Josh, I give credit where credit is due. Kenny Omega called out Jon Moxley for his backstage, his backyard wrestling style, yes. Which I actually thought, I was like, okay, I can get behind that. Like, I actually like that. But then he looks like a complete tool in his suit with his aviators backstage. It's just ridiculous. And then speaking of Kenny Omega, once again, every single one of his accolades had to do with the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Like, think about it.
By the way, Kenny Olivier and Officer Barb Brady are not a good combination. Okay.
Yes, I agree with you. So that's, I mean, again, it's all about AEW markets themselves to a very, very, very minuscule fan base. And when that minuscule fan base stops watching, the company's going to go out of business. And that's exactly what's happening. And that's exactly, I might be freezing here again. I'm sorry. Okay, cool. But that's what's happening. And that's who they market themselves to, is this very minuscule fan base. And when that, again, in 5 years, the company's going to be belly up because that fan base is eventually going to go away. And WWE is going to continue to attract a new, younger fan base that's going to watch for years. So,
I know there's like a paragraph that's circulating through Twitter about something Eric Bischoff said about WWE and AEW not garnering new fans or something like that. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but I don't disagree with them. But here's the difference: it's not that WWE's not garnering new audience; it's that that would be the case if they're still in the top 5 of each cable network they have Raw and SmackDown on every week. So you can't really say that. I respect Bischoff and his perspective and stuff like that. And the business is just totally different distribution and all that. Like, yeah, the ratings are one thing, but look at the bottom line of what WWE brings, and it's just not even close comparing what WWE is to what AEW is. And here's the thing: what incentive do you have to watch this show every week?
I have, if it wasn't for this podcast, you know, and our award-winning segment that's eventually going to bring us riches beyond, you know, this segment is eventually going to bring us riches and gold and silver beyond our wildest dreams.
Right.
A Peabody award-winning segment here. Our segment that we're doing here. I wouldn't watch because I just, you know, the only 2 parts of the show that I actually, well, 2.5 parts of the show I enjoyed. The 2 parts I enjoyed mostly of the show this week were in the first 30 minutes. Then after that, I could have turned it off. And I'd be like, all right, I'm good. Because I agree with you. I think the Adam Page and John Silver match was great. I think John Silver has potential. I really do. I think he's actually very entertaining. So I think that he has potential. And then I'm very intrigued by the Taz Cody storyline. I think that could actually be a really cool storyline, you know, because there's some sense of realism. When Cody brought Taz's son into that, I thought that was a nice touch too. But again, is Cody a face? Is Cody a heel? Like, just pick one and stick with it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, because he's obviously trying to be a heel in the Taz situation, but Taz is already a heel. But now he's going to team with Darby Allin, who's clearly a face. Like, it makes no sense to me. And I know we don't try not to talk about booking, but go ahead.
You want to know who the biggest heel at AEW is?
Who is that?
Referee Aubrey Edwards.
Yes, 100%. She is ugh.
The worst. All right, we're gonna wrap up this segment with this.
Go ahead. Then I have a couple other things I want to talk about, but go ahead.
Right. We talked about this last night, and you said you wanted to have a debate.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's do it. Yep. Yeah. All right.
So we have the current issues that I have with the COVID god, right? And my disdain for Chris Jericho. And one of the things that I guess makes Chris popular in AEW is the fact of the whole Judas sing-along that takes place at Daly's place every single time that Jericho comes out for these shows. And I want you to sit back and really sit this in when I tell you this. When I hear the Judas sing-along, and I know it's coming every time Jericho comes out, especially the part where they cut off the music and they still do that final chorus, what pops in my head are regular tacos. I have as much disdain for regular tacos as I do for that song and that sing-along especially. It's pure ass. It's trash. It's ridiculous. I don't know why you're doing a sing-along with a heel. I've been saying this since they've been doing this in October of last year. It's stupid. And as a guy with a trained musical ear, I can't vibe with a sing-along that's off-key and not on beat either. I love Judas. I love the song. I think it's a fantastic song. But the Judas sing-along is by far the worst thing in wrestling today. It's not even close.
Josh, you are somebody who I've respected for years.
Yep.
In the wrestling media. I think you have, you know, to quote, you have forgotten more wrestling than I will ever know in my life. I think that you are a good brother of all good brothers. I think that you currently host one of the best wrestling podcasts in the world.
Appreciate that.
Everything that you do. But you are wrong. Oh my God, this is the most blasphemous. This is without a doubt the worst opinion you have ever had. And on the 5-year history of the first Josh Lopez wrestling podcast and now the Hoots podcast. Number one, don't you ever insult tacos. Tacos are one of the finest foods that have ever been created. I love a good taco. I could eat tacos. I'm going to be very careful here. I could eat. I don't know what I'm about to say. I could eat I could eat the. I could. 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 I could eat the. I co The food tacos. I could eat that 8 days a week. It's so good. They're fantastic. So we're going to get that out of the way. Number 2, the best part about AEW and the part that I look forward to every week is the Judas sing-along.
Oh, God.
I have a trained musical ear. As you know, I do music for a living. Like I make my life being a music teacher and a music educator. And I think, and the Judas thing for me is the best thing about AEW every week, because it is not about whether it's on key. It's not about whether it's in tune. It's not about whether it's together. It is a rallying cry for the AEW fans. It is the anthem that has brought this wrestling promotion together, and it gets wrestling fans excited. Like energy. No, listen, the energy that comes from the crowd. Remember when they sang along at Revolution, and the energy that was in the building? That was awesome. That's the kind of wrestling energy that we hope for at a wrestling show every week. We feed off of each other as wrestling fans, and Judas brings that out in the AEW faithful. Now, you can say what you want about the product, and that's fine. I agree with you. Like, this is 2 completely different arguments. We're not like the product is terrible. Chris Jericho is awful. MJF his talent is being wasted in the inner circle.
Right.
They're trying to be the NWO, and they're clearly not. It's a disaster. MJF needs to get away. Well, MJF needs to leave AEW, and I've said that before. He needs to go out and just become the real MJF. Right. But the sing-along of Judas is not about Judas. It's about the energy that us as wrestling fans love to see. That's why we love Raw after WrestleMania so much, because the energy from the crowd is something that we want every single week. And that's what Judas brings to the table. And when we can get back together and it's a full house and the crowd is screaming Judas, it is going to be an awesome wrestling moment. And I cannot wait for it. Judas is the best part about AEW every week.
You want to know what the best part of AEW is each week?
Please.
The time it goes off air.
Well, I mean, that's I can't argue with that. You're right. But if we're talking about the show itself, I love it. I think it's the part I look forward to every week.
It's like when I hear the Juice sing-along, it reminds me when Excalibur gets excited with false finishes. It's just brutal.
Now you've gone too far. You're relating Excalibur, who is a part of the worst. Think about this.
The worst.
Yeah. Think about this, Josh. Excalibur is the NFC East of the commentary team. The worst of the worst. I'll say even one better. Right now, he is. I'm just going to pick a team because I think he is the Dallas Cowboys of the NFC East. Excalibur is, because he's the worst of the worst. Like, think about that. Mm-hmm. So to put him with Judas is complete blasphemy. I think you need to. I think you didn't get enough sleep last night, Josh, or maybe you've had your turkey a little bit too early and your brain's starting to shut down a little bit, because you are way wrong on this.
One thing I'm not off base on this is that Tony Khan is the Adam Gase of wrestling promoters.
It's awful. It's awful. Oh, God. Uh-huh.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up this segment this week?
Real quick, I also want to say that Matt Hardy has now become boring Matt Hardy, and I just don't care about him anymore. And also, I still believe that Eddie Kingston is still my favorite part of AEW. I think besides Judas. But from a talent standpoint, Eddie Kingston is my favorite wrestler in AEW right now. I think he's absolutely terrific, and I'm really intrigued to see what he's going to do with his feud with Pat coming up, and I think it's going to be great. So
let me say real quick that Penelope Ford is wife material.
Oh, yes. Also, and can we also say that about potentially Anna Jay? Yeah. And I know Bunny has made
she's an upgrade. She's promoted to Chicken Alfredo waterfall. So
I still think she's let's see.
It's better than paper bag that I said last week.
I wouldn't say she's like steak or Cafe 54 steak. Look at that Chicago reference there. But
Right.
he's Outback Steakhouse. Like, it's still really, really, really good. And I all this to say, I think Bunny's great.
I haven't had that in a while. Outback was pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely it was. But I've also been to that. What is it? Cafe 54? Is that right, Josh? Is that steakhouse in Chicago?
Speaking of steakhouses, due to the pandemic, they're freaking closing down Morton's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Morton's. I had a chance to be at.
Yeah, Morton's or Gibson, whatever which one it was. Yeah, Is Harry Carey still up? I have to look into that. I'm not sure.
Okay,
yeah.
But to wrap this up, Josh, AEW started off good. It had promise, and then it just became an app. Oh, sorry. One other thing, Josh. I'm sorry. We've got to talk about MIRO and MIRO's decline since he has gotten into AEW. And I partially don't think it's his fault because I'm not blaming him from a talent standpoint. Like, it's his gimmick, it's his booking. But you know what? AEW says, well, you can just do whatever you want. So he signed off on it. So it's really his fault. And it was the worst backstage brawl in the history of professional wrestling this week. It was horrible.
Yeah, it is his fault because he allowed Chris Jericho to write his first promo.
Yes.
Yeah, it is his fault.
So just MIRO, I now see why WWE got rid of him. Again, this is why AEW is the place where careers go to die. And that's my final thought about AEW this week. You good? Let's get out of here. This has been What the Hell is Wrong with AEW.
The sing-along still sucks. Anyways, we're about to get into the final leg here, our final stretch, if you will, the fourth quarter of this extravaganza.
I'll let you be wrong. That's okay. You can have your opinion and you'd be wrong, and that's fine.
I can't wait for part two, the Matt and Brother Carter debate on Sasha and Charlotte, and wine too.
Ooh, yeah, I gotta get my red. No, was I white or red? I can't remember.
I think you're white wine.
Was I white and he was red? Okay, I like both, so I can't remember, but
that's gonna be a fun debate. I was kind of hoping that maybe if we do like the Pipe Bomb reunion show, that would be the episode where it's you and Matt debating each other. That'd be awesome.
Oh, golly. That would be something, man. That was 4 years ago, I believe it was. 4 years ago, man. It's just
it went by
fast, man. Jeez, what a 4 years it's been.
All right, I want to breeze through these questions for the Good Brother Q&A as we wrap up this podcast this week. I got the questions here. As always, you can send me a question at the Hoots Podcast or the Hoots Podcast at gmail.com. Always appreciate the Good Brothers who also play a big part into this podcast for what it is, not just us on air, but also the guys like Chris or Nate the Great who send great questions each and every single week. It really means a lot to us that you guys take time out of your schedule to send us questions. It means a lot. So here we go. Real quick, what is your favorite Thanksgiving tradition?
Football. Well, a family, of course, and getting to spend time with my family. I don't do that this year, unfortunately. I'm in Colorado while the rest of my family's in Texas. I don't get to be with them today. I'll be seeing them next week, so it'll be great. But family and watching the Cowboys first. That's all. It's always a wonderful tradition to watch the Dallas Cowboys choke and lose. That is always probably my favorite tradition as well.
I think for me, my favorite Thanksgiving tradition is like the post afternoon football meal. Like you have like your little first like serving, whatever, where you get together with your family, and then you have like food later on before you go to sleep. Then I think that's probably my favorite part of Thanksgiving. That late night dinner during like this NBC game, which is unfortunate that we're not getting tonight because my favorite AFC team is the Baltimore Ravens. It's always been that way since I was a kid, so that's my second favorite football team. So I'm kind of bummed that they're not playing tonight. But Yeah, that'd probably be my favorite tradition. And
by the way, quick shout out. I hope that the Baltimore Ravens feel better. It's with playing tonight. Yeah, but they've had a lot of health issues with COVID, so I hope that they feel better soon. And looking forward to a great game against the Steelers on Sunday.
Right. Did Survivor Series meet or surpass your expectations? I think a little bit of both. I didn't feel like anything was overly underwhelming or anything like that. I thought it was what was going to be, and then having the McIntyre Roman match brought it up another level, in my opinion. So I thought it met my expectations for it.
Yeah, it met my expectations as well. I knew it. Survivor Series is one of the top 5 pay-per-views of the year. I now include Money in the Bank as one of it's now one of the top 5 pay-per-views because I include Money in the Bank now in that. So it met my expectations because I knew every match was going to be great, and I knew we were going to get something great with the Undertaker Final Farewell. So it met my expectations for sure.
This questions, by the way, are coming from Nate the Great, good brother of the Pipe Bomb all these years, and you can follow him on Twitter at Psycho Nigiri, if you will.
Love Nate. Thanks, Nate.
Next question is, how long do you think Leon Ruff holds the North American title? I think Leon Ruff will lose it at War Games. They announced it last night. It'll be Ruff against Gargano versus Damian Priest in a triple threat match at NXT TakeOver War Games. So I think he'll lose it by that TakeOver special. But I'm going to give credit, man. NXT's done a good job of having a guy that just signed to the Performance Center and give him kind of like a little arc, like a little appetizer of what he could be in WWE. I know a lot of people are treating this as a joke angle or blah, 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 blah because of his size and the unlikely nature of him beating Gargano, but Leon Ruff is a good wrestler. I've seen him wrestle in Evolve. He's a really good wrestler. And it's kind of similar to the 1-2-3 kid when he first started. So you have that image of Leon Ruff beating Gargano for the title, and you give a little appetizer right out the gate, and then you could have him take a step back and work and formulate more of his character and stuff as the year goes on. So I like what they've been doing with Leon Ruff on NXT. Next question.
Hold on. Let me answer that real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're fine. I think he's going to hang on to it at War Games because of a triple threat, and you can easily, you can have him do a win kind of by sneakily, and then he'll lose it in his next single match at the TakeOver that they'll have Royal Rumble weekend of 2021. I think that's when he loses the title.
I'd probably see that too. That's a good one. Next one. If New Japan and AEW start having few guys cross over here and there, would that get you more interested in their product? No. Right now where we stand, there's nothing else that's going to get me hooked on the product. It's not, CM Punk pops up into AEW, then everything I felt about the company is just going to evaporate. I'm not wired like that. I just think that'd be a little hypocritical for me to be like, oh, now I'm just an AEW mark because my favorite wrestler is there. Like, I would lose all credibility that I have with this show and as a person if I did that. So, yeah, I love New Japan. I love covering their events. Good return on investment with the website and everything. But like, I love New Japan, and I want it to just be itself. So having them bring in Okada and Ishii and all that stuff, it's not going to change anything because you still have the same people producing the show. And if you needed New Japan to add more buzz to your company that still doesn't have an identity after its first year, that's a problem. So I don't know what else they would do to change what I feel about them right now. What about you, Brother Carter?
No, it wouldn't change my opinion of AEW at all. In fact, I think it would bring down New Japan because it would that style of AEW would seep into New Japan, and then the quality of that show would go down. So it wouldn't change my opinion of AEW one bit. And I think the best thing that New Japan can do is just be New Japan. Because everybody knows what you get when you watch a New Japan show. So I think it would be a horrible idea for New Japan to partner with AEW.
Last question for Nate. He says, is Roman Reigns the best in the world right now? I'll tell you what, man. I got to say, yeah, after what I saw on Sunday, not only is he the tribal chief, Brother Carter, he's the tribal chief of pro wrestling. That's how good Roman Reigns is right now. So I'll say yes to that question.
I'm going to say yes, too, but it's real close between him and The Fiend. It's real close. If the Fiend, I just when I back and forth. As I watch Roman Reigns every week, I'm best hands down. Then I watch The Fiend, and I'm like, no, wait, he's the best hands down. So I'm gonna say yes, just because of what I saw from him on Sunday, and the fact that he is the Universal Champion right now, and I can't see anybody on SmackDown challenging him legitimately. All of the legitimate challengers to Roman Reigns are on Raw right now. So I'm going to say yes, but it's real close between him and The Fiend.
All right. Thank you, Nate, for the questions. Appreciate you, brother.
Yep.
The last slate questions come here from Chris Zaletta. You can follow him on Twitter, XTeamZaletta24X on Twitter. Really good.
Another great brother. Love. Shout out, Chris.
This is an interesting one. I don't know if we ever talked about this on any of our shows we did before. Top 5 Pokemon cards in the early era of it. If you collected any Pokemon stuff back then, that's a no on you, brother Carter.
I have. The only thing I know of Pokemon is the Pokemon theme song, which I've heard a couple times, which is really good. But no, I never did the whole Pokemon thing growing up.
Well, there is an age discrepancy between the both of us.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I was born in '94, so I grew up a lot with the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Digimon cards and toys. My parents could attest to that. A lot of toys and cards and stuff when I was younger. There's not cards that really stand out to me, Chris, but I'll tell you this. Having watched like the Pokemon movie where Mewtwo first showed up, that's still one of my favorite movies as a kid. So those ones that really stood out to me. I can't tell you off the top of my head the name of cards or stuff like that, or Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I did collect them when I was younger, and I was really into that when I was younger. Not a lot of people know that. I wouldn't say I was like fully geek mode or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with being anything like that, but like I liked a lot of that stuff when I was in elementary school, so I was a advocate, if you will.
I was more of a Magic the Gathering card player growing up, and I did that. I still have some of my cards somewhere, and it's been years. But yeah, I still have some of those in my collectibles somewhere. But yeah, I did more of the Magic the Gathering thing.
Right. Next question. Favorite Twitter followers. I'll say this. I'll say you guys that send the questions each week, like you, Chris, Nate, Tony, of course, all our good brothers and good sisters. They're like part of our crew and stuff. Other than that, like what my favorite Twitter account, at least wrestling wise, is Issa. Shout out to you, Issa, at NYC Demon Diva. That's my favorite Twitter account. It should be yours too, pal. And then like anything like Bears related, I'd probably say like there's a guy named Greg Braggs who frequently calls into the ESPN 1000 station. He has a lot of good Bears stuff. Bear Lissimo on Twitter as well from the UK is a really good Bears content guy. Adam Hogan, Adam Johns, who are on the Bears beat. They work for The Athletic. They're very good with what they do. I'm really into sports, so there's a lot of like different Twitter accounts that I found than just wrestling. I'll tell you this, Brett Carter, this year's been very eye-opening for me in a lot of different ways where I had to clean out a lot of stuff from wrestling Twitter that I just don't want to see anymore because it's not good for my energy. But, you know, just having more stuff with Bears content, those are the stuff that really stand out to me. But what about you, Brett Carter?
Well, obviously, everybody that's a fan of the show, we appreciate all you guys so much and all your support over the years. It's been absolutely terrific. I've gotten to meet a couple of them when we were in Mania in New Orleans, and it was great to meet Nate and Mike. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, he was great. B-Rob, shout out to B-Rob. That's always great. And Matt and Tony and all of those folks. It's great. I actually like the WWE Creative-ish. If you don't follow them on Twitter, I think they're usually pretty funny. So that's
they have a couple good zingers.
So I like that. I like following Ryan Clark, the NFL analyst. I think
I can't stand him.
Really? Oh, I think Ryan Clark's football analysis and football mind and analysis of football is very good. So I like following him. I like Pat McAfee's Twitter account. Is really funny. That's really funny. So I like that one. So I'd say those ones I really particularly, those are the ones that kind of stick out to me.
You know who I like?
Who's that?
Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, Dan Orlovsky. Yeah. Dan Orlovsky too. The feud with him and Max is hilarious. But, Dan Orlovsky is really good analyst as well.
Speaking of sports, here's the next question for Chris. He says, have you kept up with the NBA offseason? If so, who's had the best offseason so far?
Not really. Like I said, we talked about this earlier in the show, Josh. There's just so much movement that happens every year. I have a hard time keeping track of it.
The names are missing me right now, but just like overall, like you see tweets, like you see like stuff that Denver's getting approved, or the Lakers seem to sign everybody and their mother because LeBron's that desperate to get more rings. So I guess you have to say the Lakers out of everybody that's having the best offseason so far. I'm sure there's be more trades and stuff that'll be coming out before the season starts. They're starting on Christmas Day, is that right? The new season?
Christmas Day, or I want to say it was a couple days before. It was the 22nd, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm excited to see what my Bulls do now since we got a new coach.
Who's coaching now in Chicago?
Billy Donovan is our.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Won an NCAA championship with Florida and had great success in Oklahoma City. So that could be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh, you ever miss Fred Hoiberg, Josh?
I didn't mind Fred Hoiberg. He was put in the wrong place at the wrong time by Mark Foreman.
I agree. I just love when they made fun of him on Highly Questionable. It was great. Oh, that was great.
All right. Thoughts on Tony Storm turning heel last night on NXT? Well, I'll answer this because I cover both NXT UK and NXT. I was kind of surprised they were holding off on this as long as they did. Like, Tony Storm's a good babyface, obviously. It's great to see her on TV every week, right? She's a great wrestler. But before the pandemic started, she was a heel. She was becoming a heel in NXT UK. So I was wondering when they were going to make this switch. So I'm kind of glad that they did last night. So they did where it was Candice LeRae. By the way, Candice, underrated waterfall. Let's throw that out there really quick. Candice had a match with Ember Moon last night at NXT, right? And we're having a women's War Games match. This will be Team Candice, comprising of her, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Tony Storm. So Tony turned her back on Ember to join Candice's team last night on NXT. And it'll be Shotzi Blackheart with whoever they decide to put in that match for her side of the team. So I'm watching this and I'm like, man, okay, I guess they're going full deal. This is the new Tony Storm. So I'm giving it a shot. I like Tony as a performer, and we'll see where it goes.
Anything Tony Storm does, I'm all about giving it a shot. I think she's fantastic, and I'm glad to see her in NXT. So why not? If it works out, awesome. And if it doesn't, you can always just turn her back face. So let's just give it a shot, see what happens.
Do you think there'll be another Mae Young Classic? I do. It just depends when this pandemic is over. I think there's a lot of other things that have been put on the table, put to the side because of the pandemic. So those are the one things I could see coming back. I will say this, though. It would be nice to have a Cruiserweight Classic come back, or the Tag Team G1 tournament that I was telling you about last week, Brother Carter. So would you like to see another Mae Young Classic or something like that?
Absolutely. I thought the Mae Young Classic was terrific. It's how we got Kairi Sane. It's how we got Io Shirai. Shayna Baszler. Yeah. And it also gives us a chance to allow some new talent to give it a shot. Madison Rayne gave it a shot. I believe Serena Deeb was a part of that at one point, yes. Wasn't she? Yeah. So it gave us a chance to not only see those great names, to see what they can do, but
you know who's in the Mae Young Classic?
Who's that?
Swope.
Well, was she? I forgot she was in the Mae Young Classic.
Ariel Monroe.
Very nice. Very nice. So yeah, no, I would love to see that. I'd love to see another Cruiserweight Classic. I think that would be terrific. And another tag team kind of all of those things I think were great for the company. And it gave some independent stars a chance on a major platform, which I thought that was great. So I loved it.
I love the Mae Young Classic too. Next question: who should go into the WWE Hall of Fame this year?
I think the obvious choice is Taker, and I could see him. It's going to depend on what the situation with fans is. I think if they allow fans in, then I think Taker was in this year. If not, then they can delay it 1 year. So I think he's the obvious choice, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I will say this though before we talk about new candidates. I would like to see the class that was supposed to go in this year that I was supposed to see in Tampa, because that was a good class. I want them to have their ceremony on the network because they deserve it.
Well, maybe you could have that be the 2021. Have them we're just going to have a ceremony for them this year, and then we can start a new class in 2022. Yeah. And, who I think should go in posthumously is Tracy Smothers, because he's from what I've read about him, he was very well respected, and I don't know much about him, but was very well respected. Did a lot of great things during the territory days. Yeah. So I think he could be a good posthumous. Am I saying that word right? Posthumously.
Yep.
Yeah. I think he would be a great addition as well.
Mm. Yeah, I like to see Cornette.
I think once the Jim Cornette experience has run its course, then we'll see a Cornette in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Have any favorite WWF/WWE pay-per-view theme songs over the years? Any ones that stand out?
I will say, I don't know if you can consider it a theme song, but Limp Bizkit's "My Way" for The Rock Austin in Mania 17 was always got me going. I think the Money in the Bank theme song is just funny. Money. I think that song's funny. So I would say those two are the ones that come to mind.
I think the two that stand out for me are the ones from WrestleMania 22, because that was the first WrestleMania I went to. It was Big Time by Peter Gabriel. Mm-hmm. Big Time. That's a good one. And then I Dare You by Shinedown. That's a very good song as well. And then they had another one from Default the next year in Detroit for WrestleMania 23. It was The Memory Will Never Die. Nice. Yeah, so those are the ones that stand out to me. Favorite memories on SmackDown over the years?
Ooh. The milk truck, was that a SmackDown thing, or did that happen on Raw?
No, that was on Raw.
Dang it. That's a good one. I'll say TLC 3, because that was a good, bringing that back was cool. That's the first main event. Triple H and The Rock was pretty cool. DX Express getting blown up was pretty cool.
I think anytime Teddy Long said you're going one-on-one with the Undertaker.
yes, that was always terrific.
I love the stuff with Eddie Guerrero and Batista before Eddie passed away. Those are ones that stand out to me. Eddie and John Cena's parking lot brawl was 2004, I think. It was fantastic. The John Cena Booker T Best of 7 series, I think. I think him and Benoit had one too. Yeah. And then I remember there was this, a contract saying that CM Punk and Triple H had a few years ago when they had their thing at Night of Champions 2011. That stands out to me as well. So those are the ones that really stand out the most to me. Of course, Kofi's gauntlet match before.
Yeah. The start of Kofi Mania.
Yep. And then 2 more questions here. Will we ever see another G1 Supercard show at MSG or any other promotion outside of WWE and MSG again? I would hope so. The G1 Supercard was the night before WrestleMania 35, and that was a great event. It was a bad look on Ring of Honor, some parts of that event, unfortunately, but I would hope so. Maybe with Tony Khan having the money that he has, maybe AEW could find a way to grace that venue. But I don't think that promotion warrants performing in that venue. So I would hope so. I knew New Japan were going to have another show in Madison Square Garden. They were supposed to have a Wrestle Dynasty show this past August of 2020. I was actually thinking about going to New York if there was not a pandemic, Bret Carter. I was thinking about going out there and seeing that event. So I would hope so. If anything, I'll put my money on New Japan being the promotion to do it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business deal. So if the whatever promotion can strike a deal with Madison Square Garden, sure, why not? I think it'd be great.
This next question is really good. I know you don't watch weekly, Bret Carter, but for the pay-per-views you do watch, here's the last question. What are some of the things that Impact Wrestling could improve on?
The commentary team?
Yes.
Okay, Josh, here's the thing. Okay. I saw a clip of this week, but I didn't watch. Did Impact try to do like a parody of AJ Styles with Hornswoggle?
Yes.
I didn't see it, but I have a feeling that it's not good.
It was pretty funny. I gotta say this.
Okay.
So here's the gist. The North and the Good Brothers are in a rivalry with each other, right?
Right.
By the way, the North underrated tag team from Canada, So they're having this beef. They lost the titles at Turning Point. They lost the titles to the Good Brothers at Turning Point, their last special. And Ethan Page wanted a rematch, right? Carl Anderson's like, you have to be somebody of my choosing in order to get the rematch, right? And Ethan Page is like, who's gonna be my opponent? And Carl Anderson is like, it's gonna be a phenomenal opponent, brother. And they had Swoggle come out as AJ Styles. They did the whole AJ Styles TNA theme song back in the day. Swoggle started the match like that little combination blitz that Styles does in his matches. It was pretty funny, I gotta say. So I like to say a little less on the Johnny Swinger stuff of the world and relying on ECW talents. I'll start off with that. I think they rely on that way too much at times. I know Don Callis worked in ECW, but I don't think that's stuff that's really important to emphasize on in 2020. Some of the reckless hardcore matches I don't need to see the gazillion times. I agree with you. Commentary is just pure ass. Outside of Madison Rayne, I do like her a lot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Madison Rayne's great.
By the way, Matt Stryker was on commentary this week with Josh Matthews, which was an upgrade because Madison Rayne was participating in Wrestler's Court on Impact this week, where we found out one of the members of Team Triple XL was the guy that shot Johnny Bravo at the wedding for Rosemary. So there's a lot of silly stuff that goes on in Impact that takes away from the good wrestling that they do on this show. I'll just say that you can have comedy bits, but it should be some of the stupid shit that they do sometimes.
Let me ask a question real quick, Josh. What stars or which wrestlers in Impact that are Impact-grown stars could you build the company around? Because we talk about AEW building around MJF, Sammy Guevara, Adam Page. Yeah. Those. What homegrown talents in Impact could they build the company around?
There's a couple, at least from the women's side. You look at like talent like Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. They're very good at what they do. I'll say Eddie Edwards because he's been a TNA guy, even though he came from ROH. Like Impact's the only other major company he's wrestled for, so I'll say Eddie Edwards. I can't say Rich Swann because he was in the WWE. Right. You could say Sami Callihan because he resurrected his career in Impact, even though he was part of WWE. Those are the ones that come off the top of my head. I said the North, obviously, they're a great team. Ace Austin.
Yeah.
I can't be remiss without mentioning him. He hasn't been on TV recently. I don't know why, but I'd like to see him back on TV soon. Mm-hmm. And then Rohit Raju, I got to give props to him. He's a very underrated X-Division talent. He's a heel of all heels, if you will. So those are the ones that resound me. And also the Jordan Graces of the world. She's very talented at what she does as well. Yep. So those are the ones that I would say are the ones to watch out. I can't really say Deonna Purrazzo because the only reason they put the talent on her because she talked crap about Triple H on the dirt sheets. That's basically why she became the champion.
Could you make an argument for Eric Young? Because even though Eric Young went to WWE, it didn't really work out.
Well,
so
he's always been a TNA guy, so
right. That's what I'm saying. So you could say Eric Young, I think, could be one as well.
I could see that.
And I've always liked Eric Young. I think he's very entertaining, and I think I didn't think he got a fair shot in WWE/NXT. I really don't.
By the way, Impact's still the only wrestling promotion that doesn't have virtual screens or any fans around the ringside area. It's just Josh Matthews commentary and death around the ringside area. It's just cold and quiet at times.
That's not
a good combination.
No, at least get the talent in there, like what WWE and AEW did.
And you want to talk about homegrown talent? We can't be remiss without mentioning Moose. Yes.
Okay.
Moose.
Yeah. Moose is all right.
Moose has been doing a lot of good stuff this year on Impact. I've been impressed with him.
Except for when he kept trying to bring back the TNA title.
Oh, yeah. Besides that, that's pretty much it for questions. I want to thank Nate and Chris for the questions this week. As always, the Good Brothers Q&A. Right, probably good time right now. We're wrapping these things up right now.
Sure.
I want to thank you guys so much for taking your time of your morning/afternoon for Thanksgiving to hang out with us. Saw some cool comments on the Facebook chat, so appreciate that. Thank you guys for checking out the show. As always, if you want to listen to the audio versions of the Hoots podcast, all you have to do is subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcast from. Also, if you use Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. I want to know what you guys like or dislike of the show. Leave us a 4 or 5 star rating. It helps expand the reach of the show. And if you subscribe to the show, it comes to you free of charge. You don't have to pay anything for the podcast, so it's a good deal. Also, Bookmark Pro Wrestling Transcriptions.com. Make sure to support the TBD Wrestling Podcast with Matt and referee Tony, and support my man John the Hood with Tuesday Wrestling Tuesdays always. And also want to give a shout out to you, Sam, for your podcast, Second City Sam's Hot Takes.
Nice.
He has a pretty good Chicago sports-based podcast, so go support Sam's stuff. And Brother Carter, I want to say I'm thankful and grateful for the friendship that we have and the brotherhood that we have, man. I want to thank you for hopping on these last 2 weeks. The shoot the shit's been a lot of fun. And till we do this again.
Now, Josh, it's time to retire it because I can't do the broken thing anymore, considering what's been happening with Matt Hardy.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hold on to that now.
Boring Matt Hardy, which I'm going to start referring to him as boring Matt Hardy. But now, Josh, I am extremely grateful for you. I love you, brother, and I love our friendship as well. The bond we've had over the last few years has been terrific, and always a treat to get to be a small part of the Hoots podcast. So thank you for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to get to be with you, my brother.
Same to you, brother, man. All right, folks. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your football. We'll be back here next week. We got to preview for NXT TakeOver War Games, which is a week from this Sunday. I'm looking forward to it live on the WWE Network. So for Brother Carter, I am the Nefarious Brother Adam. Thank you guys so much for checking out episode 233 of the Hoots podcast. Remember to be the authentic product that is yourself. Remember, you are dictating the pace of your life, no one else. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Yes, sir.